Most traders ask, when should I go full time? I think that's the wrong question. The right question is, how do you know when it's actually the right time? Well, after 11 years as a full time school teacher, I've officially quit my job to become a full time trader. In this video, I'm going to share the full journey that got me to this point, and more importantly, I'm going to share how I actually knew this was the right time for me to become a full time trader. So, my trading journey actually began in Shanghai, in China, and I moved from Wales to Shanghai because I wanted a more faster paced lifestyle and I wanted to build on my teaching career that I'd already started in Wales. And I have to admit, life was amazing in Shanghai for the first year or two that I was there. I've met some amazing people. I developed a strong friendship group through the football team that I was playing with at the time. And I even went on to meet who is now my future wife, Tanya, in Shanghai as well. So Shanghai was always a very special place in our hearts, and it will forever be a special place in our hearts. And eventually, me and Tanya, our relationship developed, and we decided in the end that I would move to Russia with her because she wanted to move back to Russia to open up her business there. And I secured a job in a British international school in Moscow, and we were due to move there. And then COVID came, and that job in Moscow fell through. I was still in China at the time. Tanya was out of China, couldn't get back into the country because of the COVID restrictions. And actually, we didn't see each other for a few years because of the tough border restrictions in China at the time. So we had to have this online relationship for years until we could eventually see each other again. So life, I have to admit, was really tough doing that. However, during those few years when there was lockdown around the world, in Shanghai, there was really no lockdown because the authorities had kept a tight grip on the virus. But in March 2022, lockdown then kicked in Shanghai, and it was a brutal lockdown. I'm talking bars on our front door. We couldn't get out except to do COVID tests, and there was no way you could spend your money. All sort of delivery services didn't work. And for the first time in my life, I was actually saving money. I have to admit that before this, I was rubbish at saving money. I had no investments. I had very little money saved up. Whatever money I earned, I just basically spent. But during this lockdown, I actually was managing to save money for the very first time. And it was one of those where I was in lockdown, bored in my apartment, and I was thinking, well, how can I actually grow my money? And then I was looking online and I found like investing. And somehow I actually eventually came across trading. And I ended up spending huge amounts of time watching YouTube videos on trading during that lockdown in my apartment in Shanghai. And really, Shanghai was the very place where I caught the trading bug. So, with there seemingly being no end to the lockdown in Shanghai in sight, both myself and my wife made the difficult decision where I'm going to have to leave China because she can't get back in. And this could go on for months and months and months. We've already been waiting to see each other for 2 or 3 years now. And so I started looking into school teacher jobs in other countries. And eventually I managed to secure a job in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE. It was an just to be honest, a perfect place for us to start a new life. Geographically speaking, it was between my home country, the UK, and her home country of Russia. And it was just such a solid country to move to. So we were really happy to start our new lives there. We actually met before moving to the UAE, we met in Sri Lanka in my summer holidays before starting that new job, where we finally reunited after 2 or 3 years of being apart. And we actually got married in that summer as well. So it was a really special summer and a really special way to start our new lives before moving to the UAE. And when we did move to the UAE, we had long-term plans to start a family. We wanted to have kids and we wanted to take the next steps in our, relationship. However, I knew the reality of what that would look like as a school teacher because I've worked with colleagues who've had kids for years. At this point I was 7, 8 years as a school teacher, and I've seen many, many colleagues try and balance family life with life as a school teacher. And anyone who's ever been a school teacher before will tell you that it is incredibly demanding. You are spending a large part of your day obviously teaching, and then you're spending a lot of your evenings either doing after school clubs or planning lessons or doing extra sort of admin stuff. It's just incredibly demanding. And I was seeing colleagues of mine spend more time on 28 kids in their class versus their own kids. And they were just exhausted when getting home in the evening to their own kids and seeing their kids. And it was just one of those where I just knew I didn't want that. I knew I wanted more. And for the first time in my life, I actually had my big why when it came to trading. It was never about the money anymore. It was about the freedom. It was about the ability to be able to spend my day as I want. And when I have a kid, I know I will want to spend my time with my kid and not miss out on the key moments in my kid's life. And so that big why was so important because it just got me through the inevitable challenges that every trader goes through as they go through their learning phase. So in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE, that's where the real work in the shadows began. I spent the best part of 2 to 3 years waking up at 5 a.m. to go to work, to go to my full time school teacher job, getting home at 4 p.m., quickly having dinner with the wife, and then we would both go to a coffee shop for the full evening where I'd be studying charts, studying trading concepts, marking up charts while she was working on her online business as well. We were very much with each other in the shadows, working quietly, no applause from anybody else, none of our family really knowing anything about it, and just working because we knew what needed to be done. And it's one of those where I still wasn't live trading at the time here. I wanted to make sure that I did this the right way because I'd heard horror stories of previous traders who had blown tens and tens of thousands of dollars in the learning phase. And I just wasn't prepared to do this. I had a family now to support for the first time in my life, and I wanted to make sure I learned trading in the most responsible way. So I was trying to be a good student, making sure that I learned as much as possible before I then got into the live markets. Not necessarily the best move in hindsight, but it did save me from blowing a lot of money at the beginning when I was in the learning phase. And you know what? I still have memories even going on holidays to different countries where me and my wife, we would go to coffee shops and we'd even work there. We'd even be doing all of our work and I'd be studying trading and she'd be doing her online business when we were even on holiday as well. So, for 2 or 3 years, both myself and my wife, we knew the price that we needed to pay in order to be more. And we knew what we had to sacrifice. We knew we had to do what most people are unwilling to do in order to become more. And we were willing to do that for the very, very start. Now, I actually learned trading through the Forex lens because a lot of the YouTube content at the time that was for free was through Forex. However, my first live trade was actually in futures. And that's because I was watching ICT videos at the time, as all newbie traders do. And he was taking trades in futures. So I decided to do the same. And I have to admit, I would have spent a lot longer studying and less time actually trading if it wasn't for my wife. Because I remember we took an evening stroll after working all evening in the coffee shops and after I'd spent all day doing my full-time school teacher job. And she just said to me, "Look, when are you actually going to start trading? Because you're studying all of these hours, but when you can actually start trading." And I think I hadn't entered the live markets yet because I was still scared, still had fear and anxiety. Was I ready? I've been taught all my life, well, the more I learn, the better off I'll be, which, of course, in hindsight now, I know that not to be true when it comes to trading. But regardless of that, she gave me that belief in me and that confidence to go for it. And that's where I started trading with Top Step. Top Step at the time were the only futures prop firm that was available. There was no Tradeify, there was no Lucid, there was no anything. So I traded with them and I made all the mistakes that you could possibly imagine: FOMO, greed, revenge trading. So, despite all those hours studying, it meant nothing when it came to trading an actual, prop firm account. And it just shows that yes, you can study, yes, you can, try and learn as much as possible, but you're only really going to learn once you start getting yourself into the markets and actually taking trades. And looking back at it now, I actually didn't lose a lot of money in this learning phase with Top Step. And this is where anyone who says, oh, you shouldn't be trading prop firms and you should just be trading your cash account, I think that's just absolute load of rubbish. I would have lost so much more money if I was trading a cash account with no max loss limit rules, which everybody complains about with prop firms. But those rules with prop firms actually saved me losing a lot more money. And it just gave me a really cheap way to actually learn to trade the futures markets. So, anyone who says trading a cash account at the start is what you should do, absolute load of rubbish. But I think one of my strengths is that I'm very open and honest with myself. And I have always been the same as a footballer, as a student, as a school teacher. If I make mistakes, I'm very open with them and I'm willing to learn from them. And that was a key part of me really progressing and learning during this learning phase when I was actually making all of the mistakes that you could possibly imagine. Now, it was a proud moment when I got my first Top Step payout. And actually, it didn't take me too long. I think it was only like 6 months from when I first started trading with Top Step to getting my first payout. So I was really pleased with that. And the early signs were there that I had the potential to be a good trader and that I could actually make a career from this. But despite taking the payout, I wasn't satisfied. And like I said to you from the beginning, I'm very open and honest with myself, and it's one of my strengths. And to be completely open and honest, it was lucky, in my opinion, that I got that payout. I over risked, over leveraged in order to be able to aggressively get that account to a payout. And also, as well, the strategy just didn't feel right with me. And I just think it shows two things there. The number one, that you can get lucky getting a payout, but you can't get lucky getting consistent and multiple payouts. There's a big difference. And also, secondly, as well, if a strategy doesn't feel right to you, you're never going to feel completely satisfied as a trader. And the ICT strategy that I was trying to trade was too complex. There were too many moving parts to it, and it just didn't make sense to me. So I had to be very open with myself. I had to kind of go back to the drawing board a little bit, despite actually taking a payout. And during one summer holiday, when schools had finished for the summer, I decided to look into VWAP. And that's when I came across ASFX and their community. And I started watching the courses that they offered. And more importantly, I started seeing Austin and his coaches trade the VWAP concepts live. And I think that's so important that you actually do watch a trader trade out loud, see them thinking out loud, talking out loud, taking the trades live. That's where a trading course or a trading concept is really going to come to life and make sense to you. And that's where VWAP, it just made sense to me. It was super simple. Trade the right side of the VWAPs. It was simple, it was straightforward, not too many moving parts, and my results started to become more consistent. And I started to get not just one payout, but more consistent payouts. Not every single month, but I was starting to get more consistent payouts. And it just showed simplifying the strategy and doing what's made sense to me just started improving my results going, and it started seeing my results going in the right direction. So I was starting to get more consistency, starting to get more payouts, which was great. But I was looking to go to the next level still with my trading. And I was looking at my data on TradeZella, and I was realizing that in the first half hour of the New York session, from 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. New York time, that was where I was losing most of my money. In fact, actually, it was like 90% of my losses were in the first half hour of that New York session. So I wanted to take that data and work on that, but I wasn't quite sure how to do that. And then I came across Zinc, who I actually now trade live with on Edgeworld TV, which is pretty cool. And I was watching how he was trading the IB, and I loved how simple his approach was. And that is where I then started incorporating what I learned with VWAP into what I'd learned from Zinc and the initial balance. And I moved to a higher time frame as well. And I just started to see my results improve even more. I was starting to get even more consistent payouts. I had a $20,000 month just from payouts alone. And I felt like, wow, I'm starting to get even more consistent, started sharing more value on social media because I backed myself in the value that I could give. And I'm still in awe as to how much my social media channels have grown in the past 6 months to a year, just from trying to share as much value for free as possible. So, incredibly grateful for everybody who does follow me. Honestly, I really, really do appreciate it. Now, the point I'm at in my trading at the moment, I'm earning my right now to use more discretion in my trading. Watching the markets day after day, week after week, month after month, I've started to develop this intuition when to stay out of trades versus taking trades. I'm now only taking really A plus quality trades, actually taking less trades and actually making more money, having more payouts. So it just shows in trading that less truly is more, using more data to back up my entries and my exits as well, and just constantly pushing myself to evolve and improve as a trader day after day, week after week, which is what all traders should be doing. And both myself and my wife, we sat down one day and we just decided this is now the right time in our life to back ourselves, take a risk on ourselves, and for me to go full time as a trader, give myself more capacity to be able to improve my trading even more and to be able to provide more value to you guys as well. And so it was just one of those, it felt like the right decision to do, but it was not a snap decision. It was 2, 3, 4 years in the making, as you've heard in this video. All those hours working in the shadows, doing the work that most people are not willing to do. It was all leading up to this big decision in our lives. Now, I'm sure the big question that many of you are asking is, how did I actually know that now was the right time to take the plunge and go full time as a trader? And there were a number of different things that both myself and my wife wanted to set up and have in place before we made such a decision. And these are just for me. And this is where I must stress that this is not a video of me telling you you need to go full time as a trader. There are many people who have very happy 9 to 5 jobs and they're very happy to do trading on the side and earn a little side hustle income, and that's fine. But for me, these were the things that I needed to have, which allowed me to confidently make the decision. Number one, I wanted to make sure I had at least a 12-month plus emergency fund. For us, we've got more than 12 months, but 12 months was the absolute minimum of an emergency fund, because trading is not a consistent income. You're going to have periods of drawdown, you're going to have losing streaks, and just some emergency fund there will help you relax during those times when you cannot lose your emotions and cannot lose your cool. So that was really important. Number two, an X amount of money in investments. And this was very personal to us, where we wanted to make sure we had a certain amount of money invested just in a boring ETF, but we wanted at least a certain amount of money invested in our future before we make such a decision like this. Also, as well, number three, I wanted to see consistent green months over a sustained period. I'm not talking about 1 month of green, 1 month of green or 2 months of green months. I wanted consistent, sustained period of green months. And I've got that. And I've seen that over a long enough period for me to confidently make this important decision. I also, as well, wanted evidence that I could actually provide value to other people. I'm always looking at other business ideas that I could have. And, I'm a former school teacher. For me, going into the educational side of trading makes perfect sense and it'll play to my strengths. And it's something I want to build a business around. So, evidence that I can actually provide value to others was something I wanted to see. And I've been overwhelmed by the amount of people who've been reaching out saying that they've got payouts and past challenges using the content that I've been sharing and the value that I've been sharing. So, completely overwhelming. And also, the final thing as well is a feeling that there are new levels to reach in my trading, and there's more value that I can give to the followers and subscribers like you guys. And I just needed more capacity, more time to be able to do this. And going full time as a trader will give me that capacity and it will give me that time. So these were the things that sort of I wanted in place before making the big decision to go full time as a trader. So, going forward for me, now that I am a full time trader, I want to be clear. I'm not planning to spend more time trading. I don't plan to trade the Asian session, the London session, and the New York session. I'm not going to fall into the trap of trying to trade more. My journey already has shown so far that trading less actually makes more money. So, I'm not going to be just trading every single hour and trading more hours. However, I am going to be using the increased capacity and time that I now have to do two things really. Number one, level up my trading even more. I have been doing it over the last 2, 3, 4 years anyway, but looking to level up my trading even more now with the more time and capacity that I've got. And then secondly as well, finding new ways, innovating new ways, and creating new ways of providing value to you guys as well. I want to be able to reach out and help even more people to either develop a side hustle through trading or even have the ability to make such a decision and go full time themselves if that's what they wish to do. So, all of these things I'm looking to do with the increased capacity and time that I now have. And hopefully, guys, you've seen what a real journey looks like, going from learning to trade to going full time. There's no rags to riches in 3 months here. There's no Lambo after trading for 2 months. This is just me sharing honestly and transparently my full journey from start to this point. Now is not the end. It is only just the beginning, and I'm super excited for the next chapters that are to come. So thank you so much for following along in this video, for following me on my social medias. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you do subscribe. Make sure you do like this video as well. And get ready, guys. With the more capacity I have now, I'm going to be making even more YouTube videos. So until the next one, see you soon.